For too long, my party wrote off the African-American vote, and many African-Americans wrote off the Republican Party.
Now, I know that there are those who have accused the Republican Party of writing off the black vote. Well, I'm here to tell you that we're not writing off anyone.
But we have some problems in attracting the black vote.
Now, I know that there are those who have accused the Republican Party of writing off the black vote. Well, I'm here to tell you that we're not writing off anyone.
For too long, my party wrote off the African-American vote, and many African-Americans wrote off the Republican Party.
We believe in trying something new to help these black teenage kids. The minimum wage differential. It says, look, to an employer, hire these guys. And yes, they're willing to work for slightly less than the minimum wage. And yes, they're willing to work for slightly less than the minimum wage. And yes, they're willing to work for slightly less than the minimum wage. We put in a thing called the Job Training Partnership Act. Wonderful new legislation that's helping blacks more and more. We think of civil rights as something like crime in your neighborhoods. And for example, when crime figures are going in the right direction, that's good, that's a civil right. We think of civil rights as something like crime in your neighborhoods. And for example, when crime figures are going in the right direction, that's good, that's a civil right.
The president has not been able to get the job done. People want to see someone who can get this economy going. So I expect to get African-American votes. And by the way,
if you want a president who will make things better in the African-American community, you are looking at him. You take a look. And so to do that, I'm going to eliminate every non-essential, expensive program I can find. That includes Obamacare. And I'm going to work to reform and save.
That was a loaded statement, and the crowd erupted in displeasure.
They booed. People booed here.
They absolutely booed.
The Romney campaign said the reaction came as no surprise.
I saw my father march with Martin Luther King.
my dad marched with Martin Luther King. And I saw my dad march with Martin Luther King.
I guess with that, I'll turn to you for any questions you have.
Did you actually see with your own eyes your father marching with Martin Luther King?
My own eyes? No, I speak in the sense of I saw my dad become president of American Motors. I wasn't actually there when he became president of American Motors, but I saw him in the figurative sense of he marched with Martin Luther King. My brother remembers him also marching with Martin Luther King, and so in that sense, I saw him march with Martin Luther King.
Side by side, the two of them.
I'm sorry, I don't know exactly where they were standing at the time.
But no, why did you feel like you should say, I saw my father walk, when you didn't actually see with your own eyes?
Well, I'm an English literature major as well. When we say I saw the Patriots win the World Series, it doesn't necessarily mean you were there. Excuse me, the Super Bowl. I saw my dad become president of American Motors. Does that mean you were there for the ceremony? No, it's a figure of speech. I saw my father as a champion of civil rights. This is a figure of speech, and it refers to that figure of speech. I saw my father march with Martin Luther King, and the reference of seeing my father lead in civil rights and seeing my father march with Martin Luther King is in the sense of this figurative awareness of and recognition of his leadership.
Romney today shifted his rhetoric on his recently made claims that he, quote, saw his father George, the late governor of Michigan, who also ran for president, marching with Martin Luther King Jr., when in fact the two men were never together in a civil rights demonstration.
If you look at the literature or look at the dictionary, the term saw includes being aware of in the sense I've described. It's a figure of speech and very familiar, and it's very common. And I saw my dad march with Martin Luther King. I did not see it with my own eyes, but I saw him in the sense of being aware of his participation in that great effort. And I saw my dad march with Martin Luther King. I did not see it with my own eyes. And I saw my dad march with Martin Luther King. I did not see it with my own eyes.
But the brilliance of what happened in Philadelphia was that the founders recognized that we could be a land which welcomed the diversity of faiths, and we could therefore promote people in business, in secular life, not based upon what they believed, or even based upon the color of their skin. Ultimately, it took us a while to figure that one out. or their gender or their sexual orientation. We would promote people in our society based on their ability. And that has made all the difference in the world. We lead the world because of that power and greatness associated with that recognition.
You raised the issue of color of skin. In 1954, the U.S. Supreme Court, Brown versus Board of Education, desegregated all our public schools. In 1964, civil rights laws giving full equality to black Americans. And yet it wasn't until 1978 that the Mormon Church decided to allow blacks to participate fully. Here was the headlines in the papers in June of '78. Mormon Church dissolves black bias. Citing new revelation from God, the president of the Mormon Church decreed for the first time black males could fully participate in church rites. You were 31 years old, and your church was excluding blacks from full participation. Didn't you think, what am I doing part of an organization that is viewed by many as a racist organization?
I'm very proud of my faith, and it's the faith of my fathers, and I certainly believe that it is a faith, well, it's true, and I love my faith, and I'm not going to distance myself in any way from my faith.
I do not try and distance myself from my faith in any way, shape, or form. I've been asked time and again, will you distance yourself from your church? Will you disavow this practice? And the answer is no.
It's throughout the Bible. Christ appears in Jerusalem, splits the Mount of Olives to stop the war that's coming in to kill all the Jews. It's our church believes that. That's where the coming in glory of Christ occurs. I'm not running as a Mormon, and I don't, and I get a little tired of coming on a show like yours and having it all about Mormon.
See, I don't mind it being about that.
Yeah, I do. I do.
I agree with the ethics of your church, for Pete's sake.
So do I.
Yeah.
So do I.
Wow, you want to do a picture here? Hey, I get to be up here. Come on. Who's got your camera, though? Who let the dogs out? Who? Thanks, guys. Thank you. Good to see you guys. Thank you.
So tonight, I want you to know that the Republican Party stands ready and willing to reach out to black Americans.
Meet the baby. Who are we meeting over here? Oh, the baby. Hey, buddy, how you doing? What's happening? You got some bling bling here, too. Who's this?